Well, good morning, Decatur City Church. My name's David. I'm on staff here. I serve on the Intersect and Groups team. I'm so glad to be here with you today. And if this is your first time, I want to invite you to go to decaturcity.org/new here, or simply stop by gift services on your way out. We'd love to hear about your visit, and we have a special gift for you. Well, if you haven't noticed, we are right in the middle of our Be Rich campaign. This is one of our favorite times of the year, and this is where we unleash a wave of compassion and generosity here locally and globally. And over the last few weeks, you have been so generous. You're already changing lives, and I'm thrilled that today we get to launch the next phase, the next wave of our Be Rich campaign, which is called Serve. Here in just a little bit, you're going to hear more about how we get to engage with our amazing nonprofits. But just for a moment, I want to highlight one of our friendships and partnerships with Convoy of Hope. Thanks to your generosity, we are already on the ground responding to the disaster that came as a result of Hurricane Helene. And we're so grateful for our partnership and friendship with Convoy of Hope because they have already been there for days and days and days, providing the relief and support that folks need. This year, with our partnership with Convoy of Hope, we're going to be building hygiene kits again, and we can continue to support this amazing organization who is oftentimes ready and geared up even before the storm hits. So if you haven't given to Be Rich this year, it's not too late. And parents, I want to tell you as well that our kids this year are participating by collecting snacks that are going to be given to local schools and nonprofits. So if you're the parent of an elementary age or preschool age kid, make sure on your way out today that you grab one of our Give, Serve, Love bags where your kids can bring their snacks back in those bags. But also, for everybody who is signing up to serve, I want to let you know that out in the lobby as you leave today, make sure you pick up one of our Decatur City Serves or Give, Serve, Love t-shirts. I want to let you know, heads up, they are first come, first serve, so grab yours today. All right, I want to tell you about something fun that's coming up this week. It's not too late to register. We are offering for 3 weeks, starting Tuesday, October 8th, our Foundations class. And this class is going to be called Understanding the Story of the Bible. We're going to be covering the core beliefs and practices of our Christian faith. And we're also going to be tracing and exploring the story of God's restoration through the Old and the New Testament. So if this sounds like the next step for you in your faith, you can go to decaturcity.org/foundations to register. Well, here in a moment, we're all going to sing together. Taylor, Sarah, and Artia, they're going to lead us in a song called Faithful to the End. I love the bridge of this song. It says that there wasn't a day that you weren't by my side. What a great reminder here at the start of Be Rich, Serve, to be reminded of this promise that God is in us and with us when we follow Jesus. He's working in us and with us. And he makes those words become life, become real for our neighbors when he sends us to give, serve, and love them. So why don't you go ahead and stand to your feet? Let's sing this together.
Good morning, Decatur City. Let's sing together. We're heaven's done creations, his pride and adoration, treasures woven by his love. His careful hands, they hold us safe within his promise of calling and of destiny. We're heaven's
Decatur City. Y'all sound so good this morning. Let's keep singing about his faithfulness together this morning. Come on. Look at the flowers and all of their beauty. I don't have to wonder. You know what you're doing. So why would I worry at all? 'Cause you're faithful to supply. Sing it. Everything I need, everything I need, my Father has it, my Father has it. Every single time the Lord will provide. My Father has it, my Father has it. Oh. Look at the sparrow, lacking for nothing. No fear of tomorrow and what it will bring. If I have you, I have enough, 'cause your love will satisfy. Everything I need, everything I need, my Father has it, my Father has it. Every single time the Lord will provide. My Father has it, my Father has it. Oh, I know it's true. So seek first the kingdom and its treasures. Everything else, it will be added. All that I'm needing, I know the Lord will provide. Come on, say it. I know my God's not empty-handed. He gives us blessings upon blessings. I'm still believing. I know the Lord will provide. Oh, seek first the this. How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that he should give his only Son to make a wretch his treasure. How great the pain of searing loss, the Father turns his face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer. Sing it. But this I know with all my heart, his wounds have paid my ransom. Heavenly Father, we thank you for those wounds. We thank you for that sacrifice. God, we're so undeserving. There's nothing we can do to deserve what you've given us. But God, we rejoice in it together this morning. As a church, as a family, God, we cling to you and you alone, to you and your promises. We just thank you for the faithfulness we got to sing about all morning. We love you. And it's in your name that we pray. Amen. Decatur City. Thanks so much for singing. Y'all can take a seat.
We envision a better world, and we envision a world where people who are skeptical of what we believe are envious of how well we treat each other and amazed at how well we treat them. Let's take it worldwide. Let's take it worldwide. All over the world. We're asking 100% of you to give, and then we are giving 100% of it away. All over the globe.
We're here at the offices of Lighthouse Family Retreat.
I'm right outside of Goshen Valley.
We're here at Eagle Ranch.
We are here at our house, here at Homestretch.
We are here at Bloom.
Coeta Pregnancy Services,
Whispering Hope.
City of Refuge, and we are here at Open Hand. And on behalf of your generosity through Be Rich, we're here to present them with this gift. Let's go!
So we already have 3 projects. What?
Wow, holy cow, yes. Oh my gosh. Can I hug you? Please.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Woo! Oh, wow! This is big. This is a big deal.
We would love to fund a tiny house.
Yay! Oh my goodness. I'm here to give
Stop
a
it.
gift, another gift.
I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Wow, that is incredible.
Holy man.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh my. So it's a gift for our expansion into the DR. So,
There you go.
We have a check for.
Oh my God.
An envelope for you that you can open right now. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. I'm gonna cry.
Wow, oh, this is awesome. Thank you so much. This is going to help us reach more people.
We can bring medically tailored meals to those folks who are dealing with cancer, with heart disease.
We're going to be able to give away 2 cars to graduates from our programs.
Thank you so much for your generosity and for the way that you guys always come and lock arms with us.
You guys have, over the years, supported us in the ways that we needed the most support, and that means so much to us.
We want to keep serving more families, strengthen more families, and so this is going to help us to do that.
These gifts empower us to be rich in heart and home so that we can do the work that God has given us to do.
That is a lot of money. And you gave it in about 4.5 weeks. That is absolutely incredible. For those of you here for the first time, that's how much money was given in the past few weeks to Be Rich. So you're sitting around some of the most amazing people. And I know there's so much going on in the economy and recession and all this stuff. Meanwhile, you just got after it. It's absolutely incredible. I couldn't be prouder. And all of our staff that's part of this, it's just unbelievable. So way to go. And by the way, if you're like, oh no, I forgot, there's still time, okay? Be Rich is open till the beginning of next year, and anybody who gives after January 1st, we apply it to next year, so we keep this account going open all year long. But that is absolutely incredible. Over $6.7 million. Unbelievable, which means next year, if you do what you've been doing, we'll hit $100 million that our little network of churches has given away to our local communities and a few selected communities around the world, which is absolutely amazing, yeah. And the reason we're able to collect all this money and give 100% of it away is those of you who give to our church on a regular basis. You are investing in a network of churches that is generous to the local communities. Every time we create a new church, we create a new giving center in a community that gives to that community and to communities all around the world. So for those of you who help us pay the bills and buy air conditioning units and replace roofs and all the stuff that's no fun, and electric bills and all the stuff that's like, well, I don't love to give that stuff. Those of you who understand what it means to be a regular giver to a local church, there is no better investment other than your family. There's no better investment than a local church, because a local church does everything for everybody in communities all over their communities and all over the world. So for those of you who give on a regular basis, you make Be Rich possible. And for those of you who gave to Be Rich, obviously you've made it possible as well. And I just am so extraordinarily proud. Whenever I talk about our church or our churches to other pastors, I talk about this season because of your extraordinary generosity. So anyway, amazing. Now, before we jump into today's message real quick, next week, Joel and I are starting a brand new series. I'm gonna do the first two parts. He's doing the third part. I'm doing the fourth part. And the series is about miracles. It's called Miracles Then and Now. And so next week we begin the series. We're gonna talk about what is a miracle? How do you get one? Don't miss that. Can you get one? And do you have to believe in miracles to be a Christian? Because obviously many of us are skeptical about the stories we hear about miracles. So we're gonna talk all about that. Starts next week, and the beginning of a series is always the best time to invite a friend to church, so don't miss that opportunity. Now, here is one of what I think are one of the most challenging instructions that Jesus gave his first century apostles. We call them the disciples, but really they were apostles, because anybody that followed Jesus in the first century was considered a disciple. So the 12 guys, his guys, this is one of the most sort of crazy out there, difficult instructions that he gave them. And for some of you, you know the story. One day he looks at them and he says to them, you give them something to eat. You give them something to eat. You probably know this story. He'd been teaching all day. The sun is hot. The sun is also just beginning to go down. It's an enormous crowd. They've been there all day listening to him. And the disciples, his apostles, are very hungry and tired as well. And they assume everybody else is. And so they instruct Jesus. Imagine this. Imagine telling Jesus what to do. So they come up to Jesus and they say, hey, Jesus, listen, you need to send the crowds away. I mean, they've been here all day and they're hungry. And it's an imperative. Literally, they say to Jesus, release the people. Release the people. Send the crowds away so that they can go to the villages in the area and buy themselves some food. And actually, the disciples, the apostles, they really wanted to go buy themselves some food as well, I think. I'm just reading between the lines, right? And so Jesus listens to them. Then he stares out at the crowd. Then he turns to his apostles and smiles, I think. And he says, they don't need to go away. You give them something to eat. And of course, they thought, there he goes again, asking us to do something we can't possibly do. He's always doing this. He's always stretching us. He's always putting it back in our hands and asking us to do what, we're incapable of doing. So, about 14 years ago, in fact, I think it's exactly 14 years ago, I was having lunch with a gentleman who was somewhat new to our church, and I asked him to tell me his story, and he had quite the story as it related to his business, but this part of his story shocked me. As he began to tell me his story, he said that he spent several years in children's homes and in the foster care system as a kid. And eventually he ended up with a Christian family in Gwinnett County, not too far from here. And he said it was amazing. He said, and these are his words, not mine, so to take this in context. He said, the father in this home actually went to work every day and came home every day. And the family had dinner around a table, and there was no yelling and screaming. He said, I never experienced this. This was like a brand new category that was created for me. And then he said something that was a sort of a you give them something to eat moment for me, and became a you give them something to eat moment for Sandra as well. He said, Andy, I just needed to see it to know what to aim for. I just needed to see it. This was the category of an intact family, a healthy, intact family, with someone who had a steady job and people got along. He said, I just needed to see it to know what I wanted, to know what to aim for. And driving home after that lunch, that's all I could think about was, I just needed to see it. I just needed to see it. I just needed to see it. And I got home, and I was telling Sandra about my dad. I said, let me tell you about the lunch I had. She'd never met this gentleman. And I told her his entire story. And as I told her his entire story, it became clear to both of us that this was, sometimes you just know. Well, we just knew. This was something we were supposed to do. So 1 year, and I'm not putting this on anybody, this is just our story, okay? 1 year after becoming empty nesters, it was so great. 1 year after becoming empty nesters, we did all the paperwork, the CPR training, we did the home visits, went through the whole thing, and we were foster parents for a little over 10 years. And nothing has stretched me and stretched my faith, and nothing has exposed my selfishness in my adult life more than that experience. And we gave some kids a snapshot of something to shoot for. We gave some kids a new category, something that many of them had never experienced before, a picture of what could be in their lives and their futures, and we think what should be. But something else happened in those years as well. We were introduced to, and we were immersed in a world that we'd heard about, but actually knew very little about. And in those years, what had been a category, just a category, suddenly became names and faces and stories. And what had been a category that we had an opinion about suddenly became personal and relationships that go on even to this very day. And we're changed because we can't unsee what we saw, and we can't unexperience what we experienced, and we can't unhear what we heard, and we can't forget the people and the relationships that impacted our lives as we were attempting to impact their lives. You give them something to eat. You give them something to eat. So today, we're launching the second phase of our annual Be Rich campaign, this annual campaign of generosity. If you're new, real quick, I want to tell you what this is so you can catch up. And if you're new and you're watching online, this is so important because you can be involved as well. Every year at this time, we launch a wave of generosity in our local communities and in selective communities all around the world. It's our opportunity to give and to serve and love, but not just give and serve and love in a general way, to give and serve and love in the name of Jesus. And we call it Be Rich because of something the Apostle Paul wrote to his protege, or this young man he was mentoring into ministry named Timothy. From the book of there's two New Testament books, 1st and 2nd Timothy. These are letters that Paul wrote to Timothy. And in one of those letters, he says to Timothy, Paul's the older guy. In fact, he'd just gotten out of prison when he wrote this letter. Paul says to Timothy, command those who are rich in this present world, and rich in this present world in the first century just meant people with extra. And honestly, rich in our present world, compared to how most people in the world are simply people with extra, and that's most of us. Command those who are rich in this present world to do good and to be rich, not just get rich, but to be rich in a specific way, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and to be willing to share. And the reason that the Apostle Paul told Timothy to tell rich people to do this was because even back then, the people with extra were inclined not to be rich and not to do good for others and not to be rich in terms of good deeds and being willing to share. And they had an excuse for this. In fact, they had an excuse for this that some of us don't have. In fact, I would guess that most of us don't have. And their excuse for not being rich in good deeds and generous and willing to share was their worldview, because in their worldview, compassion and generosity was not considered, these things were not considered virtues. These things were actually considered weaknesses. In the Greco-Roman culture, that's how they viewed the world. They believed that the poor and the sick were poor and sick because of something they did in a previous life, or because of the disfavor of the gods. So essentially, when they saw poor people and sick people and people having a hard time, their assumption was they've earned it and they deserve it. They're simply getting what they have earned and what they deserve, and we're not gonna mess with their karma. They didn't use that word. We're not gonna mess with their, what the gods are doing to them. And besides that, They reserved generosity for people who could return the favor. I mean, this was their way of thinking. Why help somebody who can't help you? Why would I help you if you can't help me? Why would I help anybody who's not in a position to return the favor? But then Christianity began to spread through the Roman and Greek world. And fundamental and central to the teaching of Jesus was an ethic that was the very opposite of that. That Jesus taught that we are to do good for those who can't return the favor. He turns the thing completely upside down. And then he took it to another level. He said, and you are to do good for and even to pray for those who won't return the favor, even if they had the opportunity to do so. And why would Jesus teach that? He said, because this is what your heavenly Father has done for you. That while you, as the Apostle Paul would write later, while you were still a sinner, while there was nothing you could do to earn favor with God, when you were far and separated from God and an enemy of God, whether you knew it or not, God did something good for you, whether you returned that favor or not. And now as a Jesus followers, we're to do unto others as God through Christ has done unto us. This is the Christian ethic. This is the epicenter of what it means to follow Jesus. So this kind of good, this good for those who can't return the favor and good for those who won't return the favor, this is the best kind of good. This is the most Christ-like kind of good of all. So here's how it works. Again, if you're new, and I'll do this real quick. We partner with with local nonprofits in all the communities of all of our local churches and churches that we plant anywhere in the country or literally anywhere in the world. And we go to these people, these nonprofit leaders, faith-based nonprofits and non-faith-based nonprofits. We're just looking for the people who are doing a great job in their community, and we ask them two questions. We say, hey, what would make a big difference for you as an organization, and what would help you make a big difference in the lives of the people that you're serving in your community? In other words, what if you just had a wish list, if you could just say, you know, it would be amazing if, tell us what would be amazing, and tell us what would be amazing for you as an organization, and what would make it even easier for you to do something amazing for the people that you serve. So they give us the wish list. We don't make any promises. And these are organizations that address things like addiction recovery, food insecurity, homelessness, housing, job training, health and medical care, human trafficking, foster care, and there's several other categories, both in terms of the communities where our churches are and in selective communities around the world. And we come along to these organizations and we provide financial resources and we send them volunteers. Now, we just celebrated your generosity financially, and as I said earlier, today is basically our second phase of our Be Rich initiative. This is the Serve initiative. We say give, serve, love, because giving and serving is what love does. Giving and serving is what love looks like. So we're in the second phase. Now, I want to talk about this for just a minute. I'm going to push a little bit. So if you start having imaginary conversations in your head with me, just set those aside and have them later and just listen for just a minute, okay? Because there's a lot to be offended by, okay? Here's the thing, all right? For most of us, not all of us, but for most of us, it is easier for us to give our money than our time because we have more money than time. In fact, let me just make a prediction for most of us. You are gonna run out of time before you run out of money. In fact, that's your goal, isn't it? To run out of time before you run out of money. Nobody here is like, no. I plan to run out of money before I run out of time. Is how I'm going to punish my children, okay? That's nobody's goal. Your goal is to run out of time before you run out of money. And if that's not your goal for you, let me assure you, it is your children's goal for you, and it is your grandchildren's goal for you that you run out of time before you run out of your money. And for most of us, because of where we live and what we do in the world we live in and what's expected of us, and because we're planners and we're responsible people, we're going to run out of time before we run out of money. Consequently, giving our money is less demanding than giving our time. It's less costly because money doesn't equal life. Now, there's a lot I could say about this. Let me just say something that Jesus said about this. Jesus said, if we're not careful, we will confuse our money with life and we will live as if money equals life. But when you stop and think about it, you know better than that. Money does not equal life. Time equals life. So when you give your time away, and when I give my time away to somebody else who can't return the favor or won't return the favor, when we give our time away, we are giving our lives away. And that's costly to give our life away. So I'd rather just give some cash or write a check or swipe my card, because there I did a good deed, and I hope you do something responsible with that money, but that only took a few seconds, and now I can get back to what I need to do with what's most valuable to me and what's most valuable to you, and that's your time. And all of us live that way, and all of us feel that. I'm not an exception. I'm not wagging my finger at you. This is just the world we live in. And God bless us and has blessed us that most of us have more money than we have time, and most of us are going to die, and hopefully we have a will. Remember that a few weeks ago I said, do you have a will? Do you have a will? Because I'm assuming you're going to run out of time before you run out of money. That's a good thing, way to be responsible. But that means you have extra, and that means I have extra, and that's a good thing. That's why I don't teach a prosperity gospel. I don't say give God $1, he'll give you 10. I say you were born and you're living in the United States of America. You got your 10. I mean, we're the most blessed, wonderful people in the world, and we're not just blessed, we've worked hard. I mean, you took advantages of the opportunities you were given you, and some of you created opportunities for yourself, and you're doing great, and we're doing way better than most people in the world. And we should never, ever, ever feel guilty for that. Because here's the thing. People who understand, and most of you do, that God owns everything. We don't really own anything. We just manage things. And if we have been given the privilege to manage more than we need, we should never feel guilty, because here's the thing. Money managers don't feel guilty. Money managers feel responsible. And so as Jesus followers, we feel responsible for the wealth that we get to manage. Now, you don't feel rich because there's somebody richer than you. We've talked about that before. But this is just the world that we live in, and we just need to all accept that. Here's the problem. When we only give our money and we don't give our time, when we only give our money and we don't give our time, it shields us. It allows us to keep our distance. It allows us to keep a safe distance from other people's lived experience. We see the pictures, but we don't experience the environment. We see the pictures, but we don't actually meet and interact with the people. So we see the pictures and we feel something, we feel compassion, we feel sorry. It's like, can I write a check or swipe a card? I feel compassionate, I'm a good person. You see the pictures, but you don't meet the people. And we aren't immersed in the environment that they face and wade through and live through every single day. And I'll just say on my behalf, on our behalf, I'm not separating myself in this conversation, that separation, it's comfortable. I like it. You like it. In fact, in some ways, we've kind of worked toward it and earned it. And some of you, like my dad, some of you grew up very, very poor, and you have worked your way away from that. And you don't want to go back to it. And you have a greater sense of what that's like than I'll ever have because of the way I was raised. But you have successfully, by God's grace, worked your way out of that. And again, and you're not for going back to that. And you have some sense of connection that many of us don't have. But if I could push a little bit, some people who work their way out of that are so uncomfortable moving back towards that perhaps you miss an opportunity that God wants to create for you, that he definitely wants to create for the rest of us. So the separation is comfortable, but that separation can be unhealthy. That separation actually reinforces division, and it definitely reinforces and creates misunderstanding between different groups of people in our society and people in our country and even people in different parts of the world. It definitely facilitates misunderstanding and false assumptions. Now, I've told you this many times, and I'm going to tell you many times more, so if this is a repeat, good. I just wish this could be just, if this could be a filter, especially during this political season, a filter that just is kind of front and center. The further away, this is true of all of us, the further away we are from a problem, the simpler the solution appears to be. The further away we are from any problem, the simpler the solution appears to be. That's why you watch the news and you're like, why do those people always? And why don't those people, and why don't they, and if they would only, and if they would just listen, and you sit there, me too, and you're like, this is so simple, but it's not. So let me ask it this way, and again, this is gonna make your mind kind of leave, so again, argue with me over lunch with other people, but just, if I could have your undivided attention. If you were in charge of fixing our southern border as a nation, wouldn't it be fixed by now? If you were in charge of the southern border, it would be fixed by now because you know exactly what we need to do, right? Wrong. You don't know. Because the further away a problem is, the more complicated it actually is, that we don't understand the complexity. The further away we are, the simpler the solution appears to be. This isn't a right or wrong thing. This is just a thing. So consequently, now again, have that argument later. Back with me for just a second. The point being this, that when it comes to people groups, people even in our society and in our culture, that we know about, maybe, we don't love these words, but you feel sorry for, or, if there's something I could do, I would. The distance creates misunderstanding, and the distance creates division. But the distance is oftentimes necessary because of where you live and what you do and where we raise our kids and all those things. So there's a tension. But we're Jesus followers. So we have an opportunity and we have an obligation. Every once in a while, we all need a nudge and we need a push out of our routine and out of our comfort zone. And we need to accept, all of us at some point along the way, we need to accept the invitation or an invitation to engage with something that we're not equipped for, that we're not equipped to do anything about. And some of you are wired like me, you're fixers, you just want to fix things. And I'm to a fault, okay? I want everything to work, and when something's not working at home, I will ignore important things to fix this minute little tiny thing because I just want everything to work. And so consequently, I'm drawn toward things I can fix, and I don't want to mess with things I know I can't fix. And so I just turn the blind. That's just a personality thing. Your personality in some way engages you or causes you to disengage with things you can't fix or things you can't resolve or things you don't understand. Anytime we bump into something that we can't control or understand, anytime we bump into something we cannot control or understand, we're generally critical and judgmental. It's just human nature. But we're Jesus followers. So every once in a while, we should accept the invitation to step into something that we can't fix, that we can't control, that we don't necessarily even understand. To step into an area where you're not the expert, where you're not in control, where you're the learner, not the teacher, where you're the listener, not the instructor, and it's uncomfortable. You give them something to eat. It's uncomfortable and it's wonderful. It feels just like you give them something to eat. And here's the thing, because of the life we live, me as well, this is optional. We don't ever have to do this. So many of us opt out. But here's one of the reasons I love our church, and this is so emotional for me, so I'm going to say it real quick. So many of you haven't opted out. So many of you serve, not just during Be Rich season, but you serve throughout the year in nonprofits. You're on the boards of nonprofits. You get your hands dirty. You understand that dirty hands is the new holy. That's what Jesus modeled for us, that dirty is the new holy, that you get your hands dirty, that you get involved with people, that you step into uncomfortable environments. Over 20,000 of you, if I got this correct, I need to double check, but it's like around 20,000 of you through the years have gone on Global X journeys. You've gotten your passport in order. You got your family together. In some cases, you invited some friends, and you left the comfort of our country to go somewhere where you weren't the expert, that your profession was somewhat irrelevant, and you learned something new to serve some people you'd never met, and you came back changed, and you'll never unsee what you saw, and you'll never unhear what you heard, and you'll never unexperience it, and it became personal. What was a category became personal because even for a short amount of time, you immersed yourself in somebody else's lived experience. And you came back not only more grateful, you came back more burdened with more understanding. And you realize the further away you are from a problem, the simpler the solution appears to be. And for most people's lived experiences, there are no simple solutions. In fact, there are no solutions at all. There is a tension that they manage, that they live with. And you came back with a greater appreciation. This is one of the things I just love about our church, that you love with your time, which means you love with your life. And based on what Jesus taught consistently and what Jesus modeled, and based on my personal experience, for whatever that's worth, I'm absolutely convinced, and this is why I'm pushing you a little bit today, I'm absolutely convinced that serving people with different lived experiences is one of the primary things God uses to fine-tune our worldview. That we see the world for what it really is and not what we want it to be, not what we were told it is. And this experience allows us not to wish things away, but there's something else that happens as well. Serving people with different lived experiences is one of the primary things God uses to mature our faith and expand our compassion and diminish our American propensity to size people up and write them off. Your king never sized anybody up and wrote them off. And followers of our king, we don't size people up or groups of people up and write them off. Stepping into the world, if only briefly, stepping into the world of other people who have a different lived experience than we do, is threatening in all the right ways, in all the good ways, in all the maturing ways. Do you know what it threatens? It threatens everything. It threatens our assumptions, right? It threatens our presuppositions. I know for me and my experience in terms of stepping into globally into other environments, it threatens my confidence. It definitely threatens our, and hopefully in some ways just squashes our prejudice. It threatens our certainty because we think we have things all figured out and suddenly our answers don't work in that context and our solutions don't work in that context. It threatens our arrogance. It threatens our ignorance. We're Christians. We should pay close attention to the frontiers of our ignorance. You have a frontier to what you know, and after that, you don't know anymore, and some of what you think you know is wrong. And one of the greatest things in the world that can happen to any of us is when we realize we've been wrong. When you realize you're wrong about something, rejoice, you're not wrong anymore. I mean, this should be we should be the most curious, open-minded as it relates to what God is doing in the world and what God wants to do in the world. We should not be threatened by any of this. And one of the things that just drives me crazy, especially in this season in our country, are the Christians that just want to circle the wagons and just turn their backs to culture. And we got to survive. And we're just going to wait for Jesus to come back. And Jesus is like, wait, no. I sent you into all the world to teach everybody in the whole world what I have commanded you. So no, we're not circling up and turning our backs toward anybody. We're not going to size anybody up and write them off. We don't have that kind of enemy. We're not at war with culture. We're ambassadors of a king. And every once in a while, our king says, I need you to step out for a minute. And I need you to experience somebody else's lived experience. Because I need to up the compassion. I need to turn down the arrogance. I need to expose some selfishness. I need to show you where you've been wrong. And sometimes it threatens our theology. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. If we will allow it to, serving other people brings our worldview into alignment with the worldview of our King, which makes us more like our King. And nobody loves studying the Bible in this room more than me. I promise you that. But studying the Bible on my back porch with my beautiful view in my perfect little environment I've created, it does nothing, there's nothing anywhere, it does with all as much as I love that, as much as I thrive on that every single morning. It doesn't begin to shift my heart like engaging with people who aren't like me. In fact, that is the commentary on what I read when I open the scriptures. Right now, I'm working personally just through the book of Matthew, and I'm about a third of the way through the Sermon on the Mount that I've read so many times and preached so many times. And again, when you engage with other people's lived experience and you read, blessed are the poor in spirit, oh, that's different. Blessed are those who Blessed are the pure in heart, for they're going to see God. Suddenly, it's just different. And we, as Jesus followers, are all invited into that environment, but we have to choose to do it because we all have the power to opt out. It makes us more like our King, because think about it, I got to keep moving. Our King did exactly what you've been invited to do. He left heaven, and he didn't just visit us. We can't even comprehend this. He became one of us. He refused to keep his distance. He came and he shared life the way that we share it. In fact, this is something we don't ever talk about because we don't have much information about it, and the Gospels don't give us much detail. But think about this. Your King, Jesus, lived for 30 years. 30 years. He lived for 30 years in a village smaller than some of your neighborhoods. For 30 years in a village where he worked with his hands and sweated and dealt with people and the tensions of people and the ridiculous things that people do. The first 30 years of his life, that was his life, his lived experience. He got a full dose of humanity. He was the oldest son. Apparently, Joseph died and he was left to take care of the family. He became one of us. To understand our lived experience. The book of Hebrews says, tempted in every way that we've been tempted. So no wonder he could love us the way he loves us. And we've all been invited every once in a while, not all the time. You got to eat and live indoors and, you got all this stuff going on, me too. But every once in a while, to step into somebody else's lived experience for just a moment or an hour or a few times a year to remember, oh yeah, the world isn't the world way I experience it. It's a different world for some people. And as a Christian, I'm called to step into that. It's an interesting thing, and I'll wrap this up. That the Hebrew concept for mercy, in fact, the Hebrew word for mercy, the New Testament's written in Greek, but the Hebrew word for mercy and the Hebrew concept of mercy assumes proximity, which makes sense when you think about it, because in ancient times, you could not show mercy from a distance. You just couldn't. If you're going to show somebody mercy, you had to touch them. You had to smell them. You had to be close to them. You had to be so close to them that you saw the world the way they see it and that you felt the world the way they feel it. Remember how Jesus wraps up the parable of the Good Samaritan. Remember the story of the Good Samaritan? It wasn't a real story. He made up a story to make a point. Do you remember how Jesus concludes that story? He concludes it with a question. Referencing the three men in the three imaginary men in the imaginary story, the three men who saw the man who was bleeding out by the roadside because he had been robbed and beaten, two religious figures and a Samaritan, and all three of them, see the same thing. And do you remember Jesus' question at the end of the parable? He says to the lawyer who initiated the conversation, he said, hey, two of these guys walked by and one of them stopped and did something. Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The two who felt something for him, or the one who engaged with him? And do you remember as well, because this is a familiar parable, do you remember what prompted the parable to begin with? Jesus was talking about neighbors and loving our neighbors as ourselves. And the lawyer, he's like, oh, that's a little open-ended, neighbor. Okay, I need to define this. So he says that he asked a question. He says, Jesus, who is my neighbor? And the idea was this: surely you don't mean everybody. Surely you mean like people who are like me that I like and that like me back. I mean, isn't neighbor like the people who are close to me that are like me, right? I mean, who is my neighbor? Who am I obligated to show this kind of mercy toward? And Jesus says, which one of these three do you think was the neighbor? And the lawyer answered the question. He said, the one who got close. The expert of the law replied, the one who had, there's our word, the one who had mercy on him. The one who stopped and engaged with him. Who didn't just feel something, but did something. And Jesus said, that's the right answer. And then he said something to the lawyer, and he said something to his audience, and I think he said something to me. Jesus said, okay, good answer. Now, go do that. Go do that. So today, at all of our churches, I want to give all of you a nudge. I want to give all of you a nudge to go and do likewise. You don't have to take a man off the road and bandage him up and put him on your donkey and pay for him to stay at an inn, okay? So you don't have to do that. You should be relieved, right? But we can do something. I want to nudge you to do for someone who can't, or maybe who can't do something back for you, or who wouldn't do something back for you even if they could. This is our application of you give them something to eat. And here's the thing, you have no idea what hangs in the balance of your decision to say yes to this invitation, this nudge. And if you miss it, or I should say you will miss it, you'll miss what God wants to do if you resist it. And let me just say this on behalf of all of us, we're all too busy for this. We will always be too busy for this. Let me just swipe my card and feel good about myself. And you should swipe your card. You should swipe your card more, actually. But that's not today's message. Today's message is, would you be willing to carve out life time? So we have some specific opportunities we would love for you and your family to consider. And in just a minute, somebody at your church is going to step up and tell you how to engage with those opportunities. But before we do that, real quick, here's the thing, and you know this, but I'll just remind you. Doing for others does something for others, but doing for others does something for you. And doing for others does something for you, and doing something for others does something in you that can't be done any other way. It's what your King did for you. So, during this season between now and Christmas, please don't miss this opportunity. And if you can't take advantage of one of these opportunities that we're presenting, that's okay. Would you commit to remaining open to an opportunity that may come your way that you may normally say, I don't have enough life, I don't have enough time for that, and maybe make time, make life for that, like your King did for you. And if you do, something happens in you. You become more like your King. So at this time, I want to invite somebody from your local church to step up and provide you with some next steps.
Well, Andy's message was clear. Let's go do for others. I hope you feel like I feel today. I just feel grateful. Grateful for a message that reminds me we've been given a grace that is so abundant. It's not just meant for us. It's meant to overflow in our lives into the lives of others. And it's a grace so abundant that it overcomes two very powerful lies that all of us have believed, that I'm too much for God to love and I'm not enough for God to use. So we've all been invited. We've all been invited today to go and share the love and the grace that we've received. So here's what we have. We have some amazing opportunities that we've collected for you to choose from. There's something for everybody, whether you serve locally or globally, in person, online. If you want something for families, we have things that are best fit for families with kids. But here's how you can join in today. There's going to be a QR code on the screen, a number that you can text. There's QR codes located throughout the building. You can also just go to decaturcity.org/berich. But as you leave today, make sure you pick up your Decatur City shirt, Decatur City Serves, Give, Serve, Love shirt. Again, it's first come, first served, so make sure you grab that. And again, parents, make sure you grab your Give, Serve, Love bag as you exit today so that we can participate in generosity with our kids. So thankful for today, so thankful for you. So let's get ready, set, and go be rich. Thank you so much.